last I heard, the new president stepped in and said, you have this much space that you're able to build on, but we are taking the land back and we will work on other buildings, from what I understood. This was signed under a previous administration, a very different administration. And the current administration in Senegal right now has gone through a really big reshuffling. So there's a lot going on with them to begin with. But yeah, last I heard, they told them basically you got like basically two buildings you can build instead of an entire city. That was the yeah. From what I understood, that's what there's left. That's what's been given him left to build, which is what he's already had started doing. There's apparently already two buildings there. From what I'm told, and from what I heard him say on, was it the No Jumper podcast maybe about 6 months ago, he is still attempting to continue to build on more. I think it's kind of a show and prove kind of thing. I think he has to come with the builders, etc. I think, yeah, I think that's what's going to have to happen before he's going to be able to be given any more ability to build in that area, unfortunately. But let's hear what he has to say. Maybe there's another thing. That's the last I heard. Yeah, absolutely, very well done. So the Africa Cup, Senegal and Morocco played in the Africa Cup. There was a lot of controversial things happening in it is called AFCON, or African Cup of Nations. And basically Senegal won technically, um, in terms of the number of goals scored. Um, Morocco was upset about a lot of things, but there was a lot of cheating going on. There was so much cheating happening by the officials. There were some Senegalese fans that were trying to run onto the field. The Senegalese players left the pitch before the game completed. However, they came back, completed the game. And so, in an appeals process, Morocco appealed, and it was stated that based on the rules, you're not allowed to leave the pitch until the game is completely finished. And so, due to that technicality, Senegal was forfeited the match, and they gave the win to Morocco 3 months after the match was over. Yep. And so they had already been given the trophies and the medals, and they did the whole ceremony at this on the you on the stand, and they get handed the trophy. You could tell the AFCON officials didn't even want to give the trophy to Senegal, but they did. There was a lot of conversation about whether or not they even wanted a sub-Saharan African nation to win. Morocco has one of the more famous African players, and so there was this whole idea that people thought that the Africa Cup of Nations and the people that were involved in FIFA and everyone wanted Morocco to actually win, not Senegal. And so later they got their wish, and Senegal has now been forfeited, and it was given to Morocco. So that's what they're talking about. The winning championship trophy was given to Senegal, and you're asking if Senegal's going to give it back or to these folks so they can give it to Morocco. They're expected to do the best. Yeah, there's the expectation that they'll do the best of all the African countries. That's the expectation. We'll see. But yeah, they have at least one very popular player that if people have seen him, you've seen him. If you've seen international football, you've probably seen this guy. Give me a second, guys. Let me see if I can get this audio working so you guys can hear the browser. Sorry, I'm streaming on a different platform. Give me a second here. Give me a second, guys. I'm gonna work on this for you guys. Let me give you guys. You try. Absolutely.
People can relate and people create new platforms, that relation is going to always conform into that new platform.
Yeah, your songs, when they ring off, even now, it just feels like it could have happened in this year.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I wonder when you're creating or when you were creating, yes, you're making songs, yes, you want to make a hit. At what point are you thinking, I got to build catalog? Or did it just.
Can you guys hear it now?
That's always the case.
Oh, okay.
Like,
Let me know if
as
you
I'm
guys
making
can
it,
hear
I'm making it to
audio.
build catalog, right? But I always looked at it from a
You can hear it now.
perspective of
Great.
just make timeless music. You know what I mean? I think what you can relate to is always going to be timeless. If it's not timeless now, then it's going to be a memory tomorrow. But even memories are timeless. So don't overthink it or try to make music for now. And I think that's the biggest mistake artists make, because when now is no longer here, then they have to try to make music for the next now. And you just have to find yourself reinventing every time. Before you know it, you're gonna lose things to reinvent into. You know?
Speaking of catalog and timeless music, people are selling their catalogs.
Right.
Ooh. So is that something that you're considering? You have considered?
I got, my catalog is so big.
Tell people.
I can put a little piece here, a little piece here.
That's what Jermaine Dupri was saying. He's
Yeah.
thinking about selling pieces of it.
And that's how you should do it. Like, especially, but it depends on what you have, like what's your plans. Like me, I was selling pieces of my catalog so I can build my city.
Oh, you already started selling pieces of your catalog.
Oh yeah, I've definitely started selling some pieces, but there's a block of catalog that I would never sell. That's for my family, right? That's going to continue to make money for them and their kids and for on. But because because I'm constantly creating, there's pieces that I'm creating specifically just to be able to gain value, raise the, and then sell it later. You know what I'm saying?
Like real estate.
Exactly. It's just like real estate.
So like but you have an artist that actually sold T-Pain.
Right.
Did you participate in that?
Forgot about that.
I mean, his portion he can sell. I still have.
Oh, you still have your
right.
portion.
So when you're selling the portion of the catalog that you own. Like prime example, if I own my masters 50-50 with Universal, if I sell off my masters, I'm selling my version, my 50%. Universal still retaining theirs, or they can hold on to theirs if they decide to. Okay. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean that makes a lot of sense. And even part of it was like how people were getting their masters, and the provisions of 30-35 years where it reverts back,
right?
And trying to figure out
reversions. Yeah,
the reversions. Once I get full control, now it makes more sense because I have more value.
Exactly.
Here's the thing, also, because early on, like you said, you have artists, and I'm sure there's catalog that we keeping that in the tuck. When you're structuring those deals early, in your mind, when you're getting the artist, you're like, that's a superstar. We've got to structure the deal to have that. Where did you, how did you have that knowledge early on to figure out that's a star? We got to have partnership, equity, shares in something.
Well, because those you kind of choose that according to what you believe in. Like it's some things that you just be like, nah, that's gonna be big. Like you believe it yourself. Like that right there gonna go crazy, right? But then sometimes you find something that you don't really believe in that even goes crazier than what you did believe in. So me, I structure everything as if I believe in it. I won't get into it unless I believe in it, and it's all the same structure until we negotiate later when you actually prove yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like labels, that's what they do. They give you a generic contract, and it's one for everybody. Then when you get your weight up, then you go back in and you renegotiate.
How do you feel about that? Because there's a lot of artists, all the artists I feel like is always complaining about their record label or they signed a bad contract.
Right.
But it's like, it wasn't a bad contract in that moment that you signed it.
Well, it's never a bad contract at the beginning. It's only a bad contract later when you're making money and you're giving.
Yeah, exactly.
Like when you ain't making no money, it's a great contract. Why? Because they're investing in you.
I never recouped it.
They're investing in you.
Yeah.
Like to me.
All right, so I know they're getting into like a lot of music stuff. I think I might just skip to the African stuff. Like,
yeah,
what do you think?
That's worth it. But I will have to say one thing about this though, to be very clear about, we're all capitalists here. I get it. But when it comes to the music industry, just because that's how it has been done doesn't mean that's how it should be done. And we understand that we're talking about investing in something, and most artists don't pop. But it is a bad contract, no matter how you look at it. That is why everybody renegotiates after. If it was a good contract to begin with, they wouldn't renegotiate once they have more bargaining power, right? So it is a bad contract. I mean, it is just that. I think anybody who's in a desperate situation, who's trying to make their dreams come true, is going to be willing to sign a contract that they wouldn't had they had more knowledge or had more bargaining power. But they're all bad contracts. It's just the unfortunate thing that I think happens to people is that when it's somebody who looks like you don't think you're signing a bad contract, right? So when somebody's coming to Akon, they're like, oh, I'm excited, I'm going to be doing a deal with Akon. Or when people would do deals with Diddy back in the day, he would call it Bad Boy Family, right? So you're thinking it's a family. But really, you're getting the same deal that somebody gets with Clive Davis or somebody gets with any one of these other record labels and record executives on any other label. It wasn't any different kind of a deal. Now, they'll always say our deal was the same as those deals. So why are you mad at us when that's the deal you would have got elsewhere? I think what people are saying now is that, well, maybe you should have given better deals to, for our own people, collective economics, etc. But that's an argument that some other people can have. But I think that idea that it's not a bad contract, it is a bad contract. That's why everybody renegotiates them after a certain amount of time, right? I mean, you also have to understand somebody is investing in something, so they're trying to take as little risk as possible, which is understandable. Which is why anybody who's getting in the music industry, I always recommend you try on your own to sell your own records and get as much buzz as you can, so you have more negotiating power when it comes time.
Yeah, get more leverage.
You have leverage.
Yeah.
Same thing if you're publishing a book, self-publish on Amazon first, show how many you can sell. Then you can go to a big book publishing company so they don't give you a bad first deal, because that's what they always do. They give you a bad first deal. They don't know how you're going to sell.
And they're betting on your ignorance as well too. They know a lot of people are coming from desperate situations and environments and stuff like that, and they take advantage of stuff like that. But yeah, the music industry just has never been an honest business. You know what I mean? So yeah, I've seen so many stories. I don't know that many people who like really enjoy, their contracts or whatever it is. Like,
Right.
it's always something. I mean, we just heard, Drake's whole album, Iceman, is all about him going against his label. You know what I mean? So, but yeah.
And this was
But anyway,
third deal, right? Anyway, but yeah, let's. What does Akon have to say about Akon City? This is we're all here to hear about. What happened with Akon City?
Let's get to it, man. So this is starting African projects and politics. All right, so this is where we started at.
Yeah, it's a great breakdown.
Every time we see you, we gotta talk about Africa.
You got to.
Got to.
Especially now that y'all African.
That's a fact.
I'm not sure which country is claiming us.
We took your advice, man. We heard what you were saying.
When I tell you this is probably the most proudest moment, because this was a public, like, in fruition. Like, this is something we spoke about and y'all acted on it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's amazing, bro.
Can we pause it really quick?
Yeah, I was just about to bring it up.
Okay.
So Earn Your Leisure has been doing African tours. They did a couple of rounds of this actually, where they visited Ghana, they visited Kenya, they visited Rwanda. There's a bunch of different African countries, and I know they did an interview with Khalees that went super viral.
Yep.
Where Khalees talked about her farming, moving to Africa and then picking Kenya and started her own farm and stuff like that out there. And yeah, they just their partnership with Kwame and Alvin, with their Sambra City in Ghana, with Shaka Bars, and yeah, man, they've been doing the whole EYL takeover, and they have definitely been. You could see the writing on the wall, man. It's a really brilliant diversification play. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, there's going to be red tape here in the States. Well, we need to broaden our horizons a little bit, because that's what the world is doing anyway. If you look at the world economy and stuff like that, it's becoming a lot more global. You know what I mean? And if you're only stuck in just your country, you're probably going to be losing or missing out on opportunity. There's opportunity costs being missed there. So Akon was very early, obviously telling them and telling a lot of people. I remember seeing a lot of Akon's interviews, just like, look, whatever you do in America, do it in Africa.
Yep.
Like there's just so much opportunity. There's so much, and of course, we hear it, and then you start hearing billionaires and other people start talking about it. It's like,
oh yeah,
the writing is on the wall. You know what I mean? Like you got this many people, you got this much land available, you got nice, good, fertile land. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, and then the minerals. There's so many things about Africa that is just, yeah. I'm talking about it as a whole continent, but yeah. Anyway, so that's what they were talking about. Joe, were you gonna add anything to it?
Yeah, I'll just say really quickly. I mean, yeah, with what they're doing with Sambra City is diversifying their interests outside of the United States, and I think it's important to speak to that, because that is really what we've been championing, right? Is especially me on my platform, is the idea of building beyond the borders of the United States and figuring out how do you participate in the global markets, global economies.
Yeah.
And they've started with real estate, which is one of the areas that most people recommend you start with, especially if you've already started building with real estate in one jurisdiction. Going somewhere else makes it a little bit easier. Obviously you have to learn the rules of the road and how things work in another country, but at the very least, just starting with that. And that also allows you to be able to do collective and group economics, right? People can get together and buy the apartments or, get a share in the overall business. And that is, and somebody said it on my live stream, from thought to action, right? Is actually implementing it. These guys heard the call, it was brought to their attention, and they jumped on it. And I'll say, sometimes you don't have to have all the answers up front, but the fact that they were intentional about it, and Alvin and Kwame decided to come to Invest Fest in 2024 or 2023, and heard from them.
They've been there for the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, and they partnered with them, and I went out to Sambor City and I saw the vision. It's a lot of land that they're working on. They're building like a micro city. So it's actually really impressive to see, how fast they implemented the, from thought to fruition, right? Absolutely.
Yeah. Salute to them, man.
For sure.
Everything going. Obviously, the last time we spoke, you had the city. The city, I think, got derailed a little bit. It was some hiccups.
Right.
Where do we stand now with everything?
Well, the hiccups are going to continue. The project that I'm doing is just one of them things that just, it goes back to New Orleans again. Like, I asked for it, now I got to get deal with it. You know what I'm saying? But it's a lot of political, a lot of agendas. It's one of the things that's going to change the face of how the people of Africa, think. And I think that's what the fear is, like the switching of that mindset and mentality, where a project like that becoming successful. So I'm always be going up an uphill battle. So now I limit the conversations when it comes to that, because I noticed that they was utilizing that information to kind of try to pull and shut it down. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
But just know I will always continue to be working towards that direction.
Well, just in general, as far as Africa, what do you think the biggest hurdle is?
Can we translate that for a second?
As far as dealing with
he's already said what he was going to say earlier, which is that he doesn't have access to that total amount of land, right? So he has access to a couple of buildings that's the update. So he didn't make an additional declaration. And I think one thing that he mentioned on another interview that he didn't say here is he feels like he got out too far ahead of his skis when he started announcing what this was going to be and what it was going to, and what it was like, what was going to come to fruition. I think a couple things had to happen that he didn't do. So the difference between what he did and what, let's say, Idris Elba is doing in Sierra Leone with Sherbro Island is Idris Elba got it ratified in government. So no matter who's in government, this is a special economic zone in Sierra Leone that cannot be taken away, right? It's a government approved project, regardless who's in office, right? It is ratified in law. Or what is it? Codified in law? Codified in law. One. Two, the other thing that he did very early on, and it's a controversial insurance company, but he got insurance very early on. So people who are investing their money know that they can get their money back. And then three, he got some early other partners. So at the very least, there's some legitimacy, right? He has Octopus Energy, which is a wind energy company. And I don't know if maybe he saw what happened with Akon and decided to do some things differently. This is Idris Elba. And he learned a lesson.
I was just thinking that, like, so even if Akon was doing this, like, he kind of mentioned that, like, they're kind of using me as like, okay, well, this is what he's doing. He's pretty much saying that he's talking too much, and you're giving your enemies ammo to, like, go against you. But you also give other people, wisdom to learn from your mistakes. So it's like, okay, this is why this didn't work, and blah, 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 so now we can move this way. So yeah, that's a good point you brought up.
Yeah, and I hope that he can try to get some more of that land back, because at the end of the day, it was a very exciting thing for people. I think a lot of people put money into it. As far as I understood, he raised money or he was beginning to raise money from like Chinese nationals, etc. I don't know what ended up happening there. But I think one of the things that when it comes to something like this, you kind of got to be all in. It has to actually be your baby, and then, or you have to have someone who's built cities before actually be the CEO of the thing, right? In order to move this thing forward. And so, it's not something that can be done part-time because of the scale and what is required to raise money, to hire the right people, to find the developers, etc. And then I think the other thing you got to do is you got to do it in phases. You got to do it in parts. Like even with the Sambor City, they know it's 4 main phases, and they're not even building something as big as Akon City, but they're building Sambor City. And when I'm Sambor City, I'm talking about, the guys from Earn Your Leisure. When I went there, I asked them, what's the plan here? And they're like, listen, this is 4 phases. We are in the beginning stages of phase 1. So they know, because they're working with local developers who have built massive land projects, that this is a 4-phase multi-year process, and they're raising funds for phase 1. And I think that's something that had Akon maybe had partners like that. I mean, because the Earn Your Leisure guys, like 5 main people that are involved in the building of this, and all with different skill sets, right? You got folks that are in real estate, you got folks that have an audience, you have folks that have connections, and you have folks that have built, right? And I think that is what probably Akon would have needed. It couldn't all be revolving around him. And I think that's probably the mistake that he made. And then he also didn't have money raised yet or anything solidified yet before he started talking about it publicly. And so with that,
he got credit from the Chinese, or was that just for the Lighting of Africa project?
Well, he did. So yes, he did. So I think it was some of those same investors for Akon Lighting Africa. And I think he stepped away from that at some point too. And then from what I understand, he had gotten a line of credit or an MOU for a fund. But I don't know if that money ever came through, or else I would have imagined more buildings would have been built, right? And so I think there were some limitations there as to the execution. And I think that's the unfortunate piece, is that it didn't get a chance to get executed properly. I think with the right partners, even with guys like Earn Your Leisure, as they figure out what they're doing in Ghana and make it work in Ghana, maybe they could be partners in Senegal, right? I mean, they're having this conversation with them. And you have the face, Akon, so I think it just requires a number of different folks who have different skill sets to step in and kind of execute it,
Good point there. And then there's other projects as well too. There's a guy named Freedom in Ghana as well too. I'm not sure. Are you familiar with him? Let me see. Because I know 19 Keys did a video with him. Oh wow, it keeps coming up here. Let's see, 19.
I think I might have heard the name.
New Africa. So he's a billionaire prince, Freedom Jacob Caesar, and he's supposed to be developing an African city as well too.
I wonder where.
It's in Ghana.
Okay, in Ghana.
Let me see if I can find it in here. I think he kind of shared a little bit.
Something that a man and a woman sleep it together. So.
Okay.
And I'll give you.
I think he's also running for president.
Is he?
Yeah.
Okay.
This guy he's legit in Ghana for sure. If I'm remembering correctly, he's one of the people that they're saying is going to be like a future. He's one of the young guys that I think people are really looking towards as like the future of politics in Ghana. He's doing a lot of like real estate developments at a very early age. So he's legit. Yeah, I've seen renderings of what he's trying to do. I don't remember where this is going to be, but yeah, there's been a lot of conversation about that. But yeah, the question then now is just making sure there's enough demand to fill all this supply as it gets built out, right? Making sure that there's actually and it's priced in a way that you'll be able to move these units and people can actually purchase them. Because that's, I think, one of the conversations that are being had is, can locals afford it? If not, then foreign nationals and investors, are they going to, because this is a challenge that China had for about the last 25 years. They've massive developments that are empty in many different major cities around the country for this same reason. There was this boom, this idea of so many people coming to live in these places. I think there's a different circumstance here because there's the people who are ready to leave America and invest elsewhere. And I think Ghana is the perfect place to do it. So I do think that there's a difference, but it's one of the things that does come up a lot is affordability and is there enough demand for the supply that they are building?
Right.
But yeah, I mean, this is impressive what he's building. I mean, this rendering is pretty cool. I remember seeing this. It's no joke. I just don't remember where it is in Accra, but yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah. But salute to him. I want to hear more about this project as well too. But yeah, I know that there's projects all around Africa. I know you mentioned, like you say, Idris Elba, John Sierra Leone, and there's stuff happening all over the place. But yeah, um, but yeah, let's get back to Akon.
with like governments and stuff like that, or is it the external factors like people that have vested interest? France.
Yeah, that's the biggest problem. The biggest problem is the outside world coming
French.
in. But then the problem that actually allowed that is the internal problem with the mentality. But so they kind of play hand in hand. Like you can't have one without the other because the Western world got so much influence because of they throw their money around, and they can throw their money around into certain parts of Africa because Africa just struggled so long, like in a position of not having. So if you go into an environment where people don't got, you can just bribe. They got to survive, so they're gonna accept it, right? So they utilize that as a they honestly use that as a weapon to continue to do what they're doing. But we got to be smarter and be willing to take that suffering just a little bit longer to be able to be in a position to actually own it and really like do what we need to do. And it's a prime example. Like when you look and see what's happening in Iran, right? Iran could have easily just gave in and say, you know what, take it. But they came together as a people and knew that we have to sacrifice in order for us to be free, own our land, protect our sovereignty, and still be able to look ourselves tomorrow and live and take care of our children the way we know how to do it within the culture we live in. So they fought back and was willing to die for it. Africa got to be willing to die for it. That's the only way it works.
Yeah, you're seeing some countries, fighting that.
For the ones that was willing to die for it, what happened? They switching it up. New leadership, new environment, new rules, new attitude, and the countries are actually advancing.
Yeah, I was reading a report the other day about the opportunities. Obviously, we've seen it and have tried to, help change narrative and create narrative around the opportunities that are there in terms of population growth, economic opportunities, infrastructure. There's a study saying that the population growth is going to double, specifically in countries like Chad, Mali, Nigeria, triple.
Yeah, triple.
But there's not the same infrastructure there. And so coastal cities, Dakar, Abidjan, Accra,
they're going to get that weight.
They're going to get the weight of that. Talk about the opportunities that exist in these coastal cities, man.
This is why I've been preaching forever for African Americans to go back home with the knowledge that they have, the resources they have, and the access that they have. Because what's crazy is America itself has money to give U.S. citizens to invest in foreign lands. Like, the reason what makes U.S. so powerful is the fact that the United States of America is united because they have allies everywhere, because they spread investment everywhere. But if they cannot have to give a country aid, but give that aid money to their citizens to invest in that country and flourish, they would prefer to do that. So the money's available to do that, right? So when you look at an influx of people and population growth like that, that's an ultimate opportunity for anybody to go in and really, like, whatever you're doing here, and you do it there, your money, your value, all that's going to triple, quadruple, like literally within a year. Because
so he's doubling down on what we mentioned before. The thing, okay, with that, I agree to a certain extent because yes, United States is full of immigrants, right? And majority when immigrants come here, they make money and they they build up their country back home, which I salute. I think that's brilliant. Why would you not come to America, get a better education, or get paid more, and then build up where you're from? Like that's what literally like every nationality that I know of that comes over here, that's what they do.
Yep.
So yeah, I think unfortunately with African Americans is we're a very unique case in America because it's like we're like orphans. Like we were literally stripped away from like knowing exactly where we come from. But I also want to flip the narrative with that too. Just like that, I kind of also use that as a superpower. It's like, well, okay, you might have took it, but I know I'm from somewhere over here, and now I get to pick. You know what I mean? Because wherever I go to the continent, I know I'm welcome. You know what I mean? I never had no issue, going back and stuff like that. So I think, like you mentioned, like African American just pick. But as far as him saying that the government is giving us aid to invest in other, I don't know what he's talking about with that. I don't understand what that means because the government don't really be giving us nothing. We talking about them COVID checks? They spent already.
I'm not sure what he's talking about there. I think we gotta dig a little deeper on what he means there. I think he may have made a statement and he didn't just clarify it. But a couple things that I think is probably helpful to understand with what happened here, because I think this is a perfect example of someone who has so much skill in one particular area and has been able to build and develop a name and a love from a number of people, but I think is limited in this part and this execution piece, right? That's why I think it's really important to partner with other folks. A couple of things that I wanted to call back to just for the Akon City thing, just to close that loop, because I remembered reading about it and then I couldn't remember what exactly happened. It was a $6 billion project. That was the original ambitious vision. They broke ground in 2020, but the 800 hectare site didn't have much except a single partially completed welcome center. So after beginning raising money and the idea of construction, I think then also too, there were deadlines set by this new administration and deadlines, right? Deadlines and financial obligations. So in 2024, the tourism body SAPCO issued an ultimatum that needed to begin serious development or return 90% of the allocated land. And so that's what happened. 90% of the allocated land had been given back. And there's now a less ambitious tourism site that is meant to be put there to begin with. And maybe with that, there can be more investments. But I think that is where I think what Akon would have benefited from is partnering with groups like an Earn Your Leisure or other folks like that who kind of have an understanding for what's going to be required to get this done, the fundraising, the process for marketing it, and them handling all of those pieces while he could be the face of it. Also, the other issue is the cryptocurrency. Right, as cryptocurrency been something that has been volatile, I think is probably the best way to describe it. And there's a lot of pump and dump schemes around people launching a coin, raising a bunch of money, then selling it all to a bunch of other people and walking away with a bunch of cash. I think people are skeptical about cryptocurrency, and so
especially during that time, it was like there were so many building blocks that just fell at the same time. I mean, you had the pandemic. I mean, like you said, you announced this in 2020, so pandemic was already going to be a hurdle. I mean, bro, you're Black, you're naming the city after yourself. You're already going to have people not wanting this to happen, and like you said, if you change the mindset of Africa, if that thing really did become real Wakanda, we just had a Black Panther movie. Black people all over the world will go with this. Everybody's mindset will change, and that can spark fear. That's another thing. But I thought that he did have assistance coming from some Middle Eastern partners and stuff like that. But
I had read that, but I just don't know why construction never got off the ground beyond that one building, the Welcome Center.
Right.
That's the thing. I think that was the main reason why it was actually taken back. It was like you have to develop a major project, and so construction hadn't really started. And look, we're talking about 2020 announcement. By 2022, there was a welcome center. By 2024, the welcome center was further completed, but wasn't even completed fully. And I think that was a concern for the government, considering what we're talking about. These guys with Earn Your Leisure. With Sambra City has, even though they've gone through their ebbs and flows, they started the process in 2024, and by 2026, they have a number of different pieces under construction, right? So I think that was part of
Yeah, I think, and it's crazy. I think the only scandal that they had was like people saying like, oh, there's Americans coming in here building a city for African Americans and not for the Ghanaian people, which that wasn't true because, clearly they're partnered with Ghanaian real estate developers. It was a group effort and project. It wasn't just, African Americans coming in and trying to kick out Ghanaians. But, that's the benefit of having, a media platform like Earn Your Leisure. You can come in and, provide the correct information. And then just, like you said, and partnering, exactly. And like you said, to close out the Akon City loop too, I think the other thing that you mentioned, just having that cryptocurrency, while that was 2020 is still also very new for a lot of people. I think you're introducing way too many things at one time, and maybe there should have been, just more focus. You know what I mean, on certain things. Maybe announce your ApeCoin after. You know what I mean? You're gonna build it up or something like that because, there's a lot going on with that.
It's a very ambitious project for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Of the opportunity of the population.
Yeah, we went to Dakar and saw some of that opportunity, some of the vision.
Right.
I said, yeah, we might be Senegalese after this.
No, 100%.
We take the Jollof, right?
That Jollof?
We'll get to that. Yeah, I mean, you got a port city,
Right.
which means that there's trade,
100%.
which means that there's infrastructure.
100%.
The same way we looked at America in terms of why New York is prominent, right? Coastal cities, harbors like Newark, harbors like the DMV, Miami, all these places that have access to water lead to trade, which leads to growth.
100%.
Same things exist.
Yep.
What do you think about the music? Like, we've seen Afrobeats take off, right? We see Tyler, like it's become very, very mainstream.
Right.
How do you feel about the direction that African music is headed in?
I love the direction. I mean, the fact that it's even mainstream, to me, is enough for it. And the good thing is they have the population to keep that sustainable without a question, because rhythm and dance, it's in our blood. Like, we can't shake that, right? So that's one source that we know we can always look up to or look to help build what we're trying to build back in Africa, because it's moving really, really fast. But what I am afraid of is the idea that is the only way out, or that is the only avenue for the young generation.
Like sports and entertainment. Like,
right.
We've seen that happen already.
We already seen it happen in America.
Yeah.
Right, to the point where everybody's financially illiterate, but they're super talented. But then what? Like, right? So you don't want that to happen to 1 billion kids.
That's a fact.
Then it's a huge problem that the world got to focus on. So that's why these conversations, y'all show, like, the information that y'all giving is golden. Like, it's the golden egg for our future, because as long as we are in a position where we can literally, like, get the info, then we can plan according to the info that we're getting. But if you ain't got the information, the only thing you can plan is your craft, and that you just got to perfect that. But then once you perfect it, you go in rooms and then you're walking into opportunities that you can't even maximize, because all you're walking in is talent without the knowledge. You know?
The last conversation, we were just at the cusp of artificial intelligence.
Right. Oh,
Yeah, we
were
was-
sat down.
Right?
Showed you ChatGPT first time.
First time.
And so now that was just using it from a prompt and getting, responses.
Right.
Now we've seen this crashing industries. It's disrupting, especially.
All right, so I want to get into he talks about how language divides Africa, and then you could go to the next jump.
Easy. Do you ever think that that's something that hurts Africa as well? Because it's like the Arab world, they're unified by culture and language. Right? Like China, like it's 1 billion people, they speak the same language.
100%.
Like you go to some places, like you said, in Nigeria, and within 6 miles, that people don't even speak the same language, right? Like, do you think that that's something that's kind of hurtful as far as not being on one accord just from a language background?
Yeah, but that was one of the tools that was used to divide us, language, right? But then, the French went in there and made sure that every country that they colonized spoke and wrote in French, right? But then they would divide all the tribes purposely.
Yeah, French and English.
Right. So ultimately, what happened was with that language barrier already, the trade can't happen. So you actually halt your growth, because you can't communicate to even concoct a plan or sell goods and trade goods back and forth. So language barriers was one of the biggest walls in Africa that was unseen, but they used as the biggest tool. You follow what I'm saying? So that's why when you look at all of the colonized countries, they always speak the language of the colonized country. You follow what I'm saying? So everybody speak the same language. There's pure transparency when it comes to trade, planning, whatever the case may be. Whereas Africa was fragmented in languages. It was easier for the master to control them, but at the same time, it was a default, because the slaves used to use them languages and create languages so they can outsmart the masters. And the masters couldn't understand what they were planning or what they were saying.
That's like Haiti.
Like Haiti.
Like
right? Exactly. Like that's why a lot of pidgin, come from. Like those are like fragmented languages where you mix them all up. But they were actually creating real, like certain parts of South Africa where it's not even a word, it's like a sound.
Like,
You're like, wait, what did he say? What is that? You think he beatboxing?
He's talking about culture.
Yeah, let me just add some points of correction here. I think are really important. So that language is long before Europeans. That sound language they saw talking about in South Africa, and I'm going to get it wrong, the name of that language. As
It's
long as
Kosa, right?
came, and it wasn't created so that they could speak a language that Europeans didn't know. That was long before Europeans came.
Right.
It's a very, very old language that is now dying. So I want to make some points of clarification because I think this is something that's really important. There's a couple things conflating. Yes, borders were divided between tribes, where now some part of one tribe is in Benin and another, or Togo, and another part of that tribe is in Ghana. So that happens.
Right.
I know people named Mensa from Togo. I know people named Mensa from Ghana, but they speak English and French as their languages. But what I think one of the points that I think was originally being made was the fact that the Arab world has a culture and a language. China has a culture and a language. You teach a person the language, you learn their culture. Right? There's always that conversation. People say that's why it's important to try to learn the language of wherever it is you're trying to go, because then you understand people a little bit better. To be clear, something that I've always said, and I think this was our downfall, and the same for Native Americans, was the fact that there were so many different tribes and different tribal languages, because it's God, family, tribe, in terms of how people in their order of operations, right? It's their gods, it's their family, and it's their tribe. And I do think that one thing that China did really well is they unified all of these different tribes, right? The Arab world did that at one point in time, and they had their time in the sun. I think the problem that Africa had, and all of the Americas, North and South America, is exactly that. Because they were tribal and in their different groups, they were able to be conquered easier. So if you think about all of Canada, you know, they have however many different, you know, provinces. Yeah, the different provinces. You have all of the Native American tribes that have been disappeared pretty much from all of, you know, the United States and the islands, and then all of Latin America, right? Same thing happened all across the continent of Africa. That did not happen in China. And that's because prior to Europe having their time in the sun, what happened mostly was that the Chinese they kind of made a more homogenous cultural and language, and you know, everyone across the entire space spoke at least two languages. You had that main language, whether it was Cantonese or Chinese, and you had a local dialect, where the continent of Africa did not have that. Right. And this is actually showing how the continent was divided. But prior to even the division of the late 1800s, even when there was small minor divisions coming in and slowly but surely taking on the slave trade over the time period that they did, you had a number of different people that were, you know, at war with each other, or there just wasn't enough homogeny to be able to fully stop that group. I mean, it's a giant continent. We should have easily been able to stop England, Portugal, France, Spain, as small as they are and as big as the continent is. But it, you know, there was a lot of things that would have had to happen, you know, but I'm just saying that one of the things.
I can't lie.
Yeah.
Every single time I look at a map and I see, just to see what they did, it pisses me off. You just tell me this little island called the United Kingdom did what?
Exactly.
Like, exactly. Not just to the African continent, but to Australia, to, you know, parts of India. Just like, bro, they come up here. Like, how do they even have that enough people on this freaking island to do what they did? It's insane to me. But
yeah. But all they got was Hong Kong.
Yeah, man.
They didn't get China. They only got Hong Kong.
Yeah.
You know,
and I didn't even know they got Hong Kong.
I mean, it was on lease too for 100 years. Just gave it back. Wow. You know, I think that's the thing is, like, you know, I do think language, that was on us. We already had division by language and tribe, just like Native Americans did, and I think that was one way that was used to conquer massive land masses, was the difference in language. So yeah, I mean, I don't think that's the only reason. There are many reasons, is, you know, there's a lot to talk about, but I do think I want to just make that point of correction, because I think what was, there was couple things being conflated there, and I think that's an important point.
Yeah.
The original point that guys from Earn Your Leisure was making was, do we think that the different languages is causing that? And he was speaking about the different languages within Nigeria. He was talking about the different languages amongst the different tribes. So I wanted to make sure we tied a bow on that. And then separately, yes, tribes were also split in half, and one half of a tribe now speaks French and is in what they call Togo, and another half of that tribe now speaks English, and they're in what is modern day Ghana. So that is a secondary thing that happened after the slave trade and the division of the continent. But I just thought I'd make that point of correction.
Yeah, for sure.
But he actually is talking to you, right? But these are all traditions of slaves back then. That it was like code on how they can communicate without the slave owner actually understanding what they were doing as they was planning escapes and different things like that. But as unfortunately, it was a strength for them then, but it's a weakness later by default, because now when you're trying to unite the tribes, you're trying to unite the people and everybody else to kind of move forward together, you can't, because that language barrier is hard to communicate.
But that's what your app does.
That's what that
makes it easy.
I was gonna say, technology becomes the great barrier that unifies that. So as you're saying, ConGPT, and I'm thinking generative AI, I'm thinking there is a world of opportunity now, right? Because in order for that, you need to have telecommunications, what kind of devices, who's coming in there. I just saw that Huawei is now coming to Africa. But it also
Huawei been in Africa a while. But like when I was doing my Acon Lighting Africa, I was partnered up with them. Because we were putting the Cat 5 wires up underground. It was all Huawei that did all of that. So they already, I think they had a 30-year plan for Africa already.
So that's part. So now, as you're saying it, because instead of using NVIDIA's GPUs, they're saying that Huawei is going to create the GPUs that will now go into the continent. I'm not sure which countries.
All of them.
But
I'm letting you know now, being transparent, guys. They like literally all of them.
It speaks to the power issue, which is an issue on the continent.
Right.
How do you see that playing out? Because yes, we've seen Meta with the W project going underseas with their cables, but that doesn't get inland, right? So how do you see power for the continent going forward? Because this is going to be a huge issue.
Yeah, it's going to be a huge issue, but it won't be as huge, because as you can see, the world is they're slowly transforming away from the traditional energy sources. So there's going to be a lot of renewable energy going in. But when you look at all the fiber optics that's being put in, that's the connectivity for people to be able to communicate. Whether you got media sources, mobile sources, whatever the case may be. But as far as energy itself, I mean, we got plenty of wind, we got plenty of water, and more than anything, we got plenty of sun. So just those three alone, when you look at hydro, you look at solar, you look at wind, that alone can power all of Africa. We don't even need no nuclear power plant, right? But of course, that nuclear is always available too, with proper funding and all of that. But when the infrastructure isn't put in place, then certain things you want to go nuclear, because certain things only nuclear can power for it to be efficient. You know what I mean? So as of now, though, Africa can literally rely on all renewable energies and be able to compete with the rest of the world because of the vast amount of land that exists there that's not being used.
Yeah. Somebody's gonna see that as an opportunity. Why they should invest?
Yes, exactly.
So you got a new song.
All right, man. Let's give them a round of applause, man. Give Earn Your Leisure and Akon. Yeah, man, it was good to get that update, man. Let us know in the comments what you guys think of this conversation. I mean, he didn't really say that Akon City is officially like dead or done. It just seems like, you know what I mean? Like he's just kind of pausing it. I mean,
to be continued.
Yeah, to be continued, man. You know what I mean? So, this could be a 10, 20, 30, maybe never. Who knows? But I think he is at least sitting down with the right people, man.
I'm hoping he partners like them. You know what I'm saying? I think that would be everything. I had some people put in some corrections on the there was those tribes were nations. They saw themselves as independent states and didn't see themselves as Africans. Yeah, that's true. I don't disagree with that, but I do think that by having those independent nations, they were divided and conquered. Right, that's part of the division and conquering. One thing that was mentioned is that in 1963, an Addis Ababa conference was intended to do what China did, but the colonialists jumped into it using divide and conquer. Obviously, that was long after the Berlin conference. And so, I mean, it's a different time, right?
I was just going to mention that as well too. Like we forget the Europeans, we don't call them tribes, but they weren't rocking with each other either. They were going to war with each other all the time and stuff like that too. But they came together for that Berlin Conference. It's like, you know what, we don't like y'all, but let's come together so we can split up Africa, so we can all get a piece of this gold and make this money and get these slaves and do all this. So even in the midst of them not liking each other and speaking different languages, they figured it out. So I'm just saying that we could have figured it out. Our people could have figured it out. Still can figure it out. Random fun question. You know what I mean? If Africa had to pick one language for all the 54 countries, what language do you think it should be and why?
So I've had this thought exercise before, and I've had this conversation, and although it's not a language that I know or understand, I think it makes the most sense, and I think it's Swahili. Because Swahili is a created language. It's spoken by the most people in the largest land masses on the continent. And it is a new language. It's a built language, right? So you have people who speak Swahili in Tanzania. You have people who speak it in Uganda. You have people who speak it in Kenya and a few other nations as well. And so it is one thing that unites most of the East African Federation. And, it's something that is spoken generally. I know some Rwandans who actually speak it as well. So to me, it would make the most sense. Second to that would be some form of a pidgin. Like Nigerians obviously speak pidgin. Sierra Leone, we have our own form of pidgin, which is similar to Nigerian pidgin. Ghanaians sometimes speak it, depending on who you are and your socioeconomic status. But yeah, to me, I think Swahili would probably make the most sense, just because of its wide-ranging nature, and it's an amalgamation of languages, right? It's a newer language. So yeah, I'd say that would probably make the most sense.
Jumbo. Yeah, man. I would be team Swahili too. My name is Swahili, so like I'm already biased. Okay. But but on top of that, like you mentioned, like over 150 to 200 million people speak it. It's the most spoken language on the African continent, I think, outside of the colonized languages. So, this definitely makes the most sense. I agree. Salute to all the Swahili speaking folks. All right. Let's see if we could try to squeeze one more video in. Oh, well, let's get into this, man. Okay. Joe, you want to go ahead and announce this before I play this?
Absolutely. So I'm excited to announce just a couple of weeks ago, I partnered with Ito, which is a experiential platform based in Ghana and the UK, to have a contest for people to enter for their chance to win an all-expense paid trip to Ghana. We could play the video and then I can give you guys some more details afterwards, but let's play the video because I shot this the day before I got on my flight with very little time. So me, but I did best. Let's watch the video. Oh, I'm sorry. It's me. Oh shoot. Okay, am I back? Can you guys hear me? Yeah, my connectivity went out. I had to sorry about that, guys. I got too many things going on. Claude AI and all this stuff is slowing down my computer, but it looks like I'm back. Audio's back on. You guys can hear me. All right, cool. So as I was saying, I partnered with Ito. I'll give a little bit of context and insight before we press play. I met Margaret Deborah maybe about two and a half years ago online. through Ya, who's been a really strong supporter of the platform, and she mentioned that I should talk to her about what she's up to. So we did an interview on the platform. We met up in Ghana while we were both there. She was expanding what she was doing with Ito. And then last year, I happened to be in Ghana when last year's winner was there. And she was telling me about her experience doing chocolate making and going to, she's Jamaican. She's of Jamaican descent. So she went to a fashion show and Beanie Man was there. And so I let her know that I was going to the Beanie Man concert one of those evenings. I was going to a Busta Rhymes concert. And so hearing her experience made me really want to participate in something like this. I spoke to Margaret, probably about 6 weeks ago, and we started talking through, how we could work together on this, what would work, the logistics, how we marketed, all the things. And just about 3 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago, we announced it publicly. And so this was the announcement video that we're going to play here. And yeah, I'll tell you more about it afterwards. There it is. So yes. So what are we talking about? Chocolate making, all the events that are happening in December. Every year is a little bit different. So we haven't announced all of the activities, but the hotel is covered. 3 meals a day are covered. 4 nights, 5 days for an experience of a lifetime. Tamara, I just interviewed her. She's in New York right now. So I did an interview with her last Friday or the Friday before. We sat down and she told me all the details I didn't even know. Like I met her in Ghana and she told me a bit about it, what her experience was like. But when I sat down and interviewed her, she explained to me, where she heard about it and why she signed up. And she had never been to the continent of Africa ever in her life. And so, nor had she had any real concrete plans for going. So originally she entered the contest just because she wanted to support a Black-owned business. And she entered with a substantial number of entries. And while doing so, she was able to actually end up becoming the winner. It's a random drawing. So the more you enter, the more opportunity you get a chance to win. So for example, you get 3 entries for $4. If you pay $50, you get 50 entries, right? So when the randomizer chooses someone, it obviously behooves you to have more entries. So she did over $100. I'm not suggesting everybody do that, but she did do that, and it really increased her chances, and she won. She won the trip last year. So this year, an announcement was already made for a winner, and so we are looking for another winner. The more people who enter and the more times you enter, the more likely it is for the next person to win. And we want to have as many people as possible, but we just need to have a lot more entries in order to make it happen. So yeah, that's where we are right now. I'm excited about this. It's been a long time coming. I've been wanting to do a kind of a contest like this, and I wanted to do something for people who want to come to Africa because I've been talking about it all the time. So this is your chance. And no matter where you are in the world, as long as you're near an international airport, your flight will be paid from that airport to Accra, Ghana. Accra International Airport is the new name of the airport in Ghana, in Accra, Ghana. So yeah, that's the situation. So ito.authenticafrican.com is the website. We're updating the site to add more videos and update some things, but you can always enter for your chance to win at that URL. Um, and you can enter for somebody else too if you want to buy entries for someone else, because you know you just have to enter their name as the applicant. But yeah, I mean, if you want to offer this as a potential present for someone, you can enter it on their behalf as well. I mean, it really is open to anyone in the world, and it's open to Africans too. If people are already on the continent and want to come, even if you're in another part of Ghana, you can enter this process. This is not, no one is excluded from this. Yep. Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that. Of course. Yes. Yep. Yeah, we will be at InvestFest. That's a good point. We'll be at InvestFest. So if you want to see us in person, we will be at InvestFest. I'm going to be at a couple places this summer. Maybe I should just throw them out there. I will be at InvestFest. I will be at the Sierra Leone Diaspora Investment Conference. I will be at Brand Week in Atlanta. So I got 2 trips to Atlanta this to end the summer. And I got a DMV trip for sure. So I'll be at all those different places, but I'll be letting everybody know. But definitely come through to InvestFest. That's where me and Imani met, and we decided we were going to try to figure out how we are going to do some content together. And it's been great. You know, I got new family now, my new members of my social media family, and I'm looking forward to being back on whenever you have me. I love doing these live streams, so that'll be dope. That'll be dope. Yeah. I got 2 trips to the DMV this summer, so I'll definitely keep you posted. Stream. I'll see you guys. I can't play that music, so I'm